Welcome to the Lost and Found podcast. I'm your host, Amanda. Join me each week as I rediscover my life's meaning, my passions, and my place in this world after leaving behind the only dream I've ever known. If you are dealing with self-loss, identity changes, career transitions, or you are still trying to figure out your life's purpose, then you're not alone. Join me. Wanderers are always welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lost and Found podcast. This is your host, Amanda. Oh, man. Usually I like to say that I'm happy to be here. What's up? Checking in. But to be honest, this has been the last month of my life has been the craziest month in a while. If you don't know yet, I broke my leg in April. I fractured my fibula and was on crutches for almost 3 weeks and then in a boot for the last 3 weeks so far. I go in to see the doctor again May 23rd and hopefully can get some good news about transitioning back to regular shoes. I know I don't need surgery, but I'm going to be fine. But in the meantime, my life has just been kind of haywire. When that happened, I was watching my dogs because my parents were out of town in Europe and I watched Dirks and Dolly when that happened. So it's been a lot, right? And after that injury happened, everything kind of threw me off and a lot is starting to happen all at once right now. For those of you that may not know, I am also moving out of Nashville. You can see the moving boxes are right behind me if you're watching on YouTube. And life always seems to have a funny way of making plans for you, right? When you have a different idea of how your life is supposed to be going, or like you're going down a path and you feel good about it, and all of a sudden the universe, God, Yahweh, whoever, Allah, whoever you believe in, maybe throws a wrench in there or like drops something that throws you off your game. And I've been off my game. And to be honest, I put the podcast kind of on the back burner. I'm doing my best to keep up with the social media posts and stuff, but unless I was interviewing a guest, I was not in the mental headspace to come on here solo. I really wasn't. That injury happened, and I don't care if it sounds weak or silly, but like it really took it out of me. The creativity, the fire that I was feeling about myself just plummeted. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about this week. Now that I am finally in a place where the dogs are gone, I'm physically a lot more capable. I'm starting to get what some women call, like after their postpartum period, they call it, getting their pink back. I don't know what the artist's version of getting your inspiration back or finding your muse again, whatever that insert phrase here. I'm finally getting back to a place where I feel like I have a bit more control. And so I feel like I'm in a better headspace where I can share exactly what it is that I'm feeling and thinking. And I want to catch you up on that. And since it's the beginning of springtime, a lot of changes in the air. Maybe you're finishing school, you're about to graduate, you're about to move on to the next phase of your life. Maybe you are moving to a new city like me and you're nervous about that. Maybe you're getting married this year and your life's about to change more than you might realize, and just stuff creeps in and can stress you out for lots of different reasons. Life transitions they can be exciting and anxious and nerve-wracking and scary and fun and maddening all at once, and learning how to navigate that can be really hard. And so I kind of wanted to talk about the issues that I've been trying to navigate over this last month and how I came out the other side so far. But that's basically it. So this episode's going to be all about the lessons learned from what I thought was spraining my ankle. But it's been weird, right? Like, so I wrote up this outline as avid listeners and avid wanderers who are listening to the show, that I've been leaning into my intuition a lot and trying to learn how to listen to the inner voice. And every now and then my intuition will tell me, you need to talk about this topic. This is really important. This is what people are going to care about. And so when I listen to that, those episodes end up being really good ones. And I knew I needed to talk about getting hurt, but I didn't know how to explain how I was feeling. So I just kind of started word vomiting a lot. So I have like a full little speech here that I wanted to read to everyone, but I added bulleted notes as well, where I kind of talk about unlocking. This past month helped me unlock new fears. It helped me recognize some untapped gratitude. I underestimated some of my trauma that I thought I was doing better with, but apparently I wasn't. And there were a lot of funny moments too, right? And so I could look back on this moment and appreciate it for what it was worth. But sometimes that's kind of what it takes for you to have a moment where you recognize, oh, I thought I was okay, and it turns out I'm not. But just because I'm not okay doesn't necessarily mean I have taken a 7,000 steps back, or that I've ruined my path, or that I knocked myself off. It's just, this was a moment in my life where it told me, you're doing really great, but don't get so cocky to think that you're 100% fine, or that nothing can brush up and hurt you, or brush up and remind you of these things, right? You're doing well. You're not better than anybody else. You still got a lot of stuff that's in there. And again, I told you guys in the very beginning of this podcast, this is a show that's all about me and my journey and what I'm doing. So it's a very selfish and self-centered sometimes. So this was it was a really good lesson. But let's see. Unlocking all these new fears. So unlocked another new fear about getting hurt and living alone. Despite having friends in the neighborhood, it was just very blatantly obvious that I am alone. I am very much alone. And I kind of joked about this on my socials that I had to come to terms with, now I might fall in my 30s in the shower and I'll be there forever, because you don't take your phone into the shower with you, or at least I don't. If I were to fall now with a broken leg while I'm trying to shower and nobody's here to help me, how long am I going to be stuck in this shower? Nobody's coming over. My parents are gone. My brother and sister-in-law live in another town. My sister lives 45 minutes south of here. Nobody's coming over on a regular basis to check on me. I don't have people coming in and out of my house I'm not that house, right? I'm not the neighborhood friendly friend's house. Everybody else goes to a different neighbor's house to hang out. So nobody would have known, and nobody knew the night of, right, that I hurt myself because I was alone. So that was kind of an unlocked fear that if this ever happens again, it's so isolating. It's so isolating. But that kind of led me into the untapped gratitude as well. After I did get injured, I realized how resilient I actually am, and that it knocked me down for a few days. Probably the first 3 to 4 days I was not okay, sad, depressed, upset. But it also reminded me, you've hurt this leg before, you've injured this leg previously, and you got over it. You grew up, you moved on, you got your strength back, you can do it again, kind of a thing. And then it showed me a new appreciation, or just an additional level of gratitude for the friendships that I have. So it showed me definitely the difference between people that would text me just to offer help versus the people that would actually show up and deliver that help. That made a huge difference. There were a few people that came over to drop off food. There were a few people that came over to walk my dogs for me. There were a few people that came over to flip laundry, or take out the trash, or bring the trash up and down from the street. There were moments where I could realize who's actually my friend and who's just saving face. So that was good, just to recognize where my relationship status actually stands with certain people. And then let's see, I had a new untapped gratitude for how my body functions, right? When you get injured, you don't realize how much you rely on a certain limb or certain muscle or nerve endings and things like that to have biofeedback to your brain. And essentially losing my foot, or the ability to stand, showed me just how strong the rest of my body had to be, right? The core strength that I had to develop to use those crutches and sit up straight, and leaning on the right side of my body, and how much the right side of my body had to overcompensate, and I had to be conscientious of that, and not let those muscles seize up or anything like that, but just the human body in and of itself, to recognize, we're injured, let's transition the work to the other side of the body and start, swelling and trying to protect the thing that's broken. So it just gave me an untapped gratitude for just your overall health. And we've been preaching this a bit on the podcast as well, that your longevity matters so much, men and women, but especially women. Lift weights, do cardio, eat the protein, eat the carbs, take care of your heart health, take care of your cholesterol, and stretch and go on walks, and recognize that the phrase, you don't have to, you get to, is a really big deal. I have never missed working out so much as I do when I'm injured or when I'm sick. And that goes to show that I've integrated it so well into my lifestyle now that it feels like pieces of me are missing when I can't do those things. And then I had a new untapped gratitude for home healthcare workers. So anybody that's a at-home nurse, does geriatric work, works as an occupational therapist, physical therapist, anybody that's out there helping the injured or the elderly or people that are in rehabilitation programs. You guys are rock stars. You do not get paid enough. There are not enough of you in this world, and your jobs are so essential and so crucial and so helpful. It's a shame that isn't more aptly available to people. But it definitely gave me a whole brand new respect for the people that, take care of my grandparents or, possibly eventually my own parents. It's a really big deal, and shout out to all of them for making the world a better place, one home at a time. And then we had a few funny moments, all the things that get 10 times harder when you only have one leg, like learning how to unclog a toilet. That wasn't easy while you're trying to balance on one foot and plunge a toilet. Before I bought a medical bag to put on my leg to protect the cast or the boot, I was trying to shower with a trash bag and duct tape, and that looked ratchet for sure. That was hard to do. Shaving, can't really bend over, can't get to that leg, can't get it inside the cast, so that was gross. Brushing your teeth gets exhausting because you're standing on the one leg trying to lean over onto the sink. So when that was first happening, that was all the energy I could do. The first thing in the morning when I'm getting up and hobbling over to my sink, brushing my teeth took all my energy. I had to sit back down a lot after that to be okay, we'll rest for a few minutes, then you'll change your clothes, and then we'll rest for a few minutes and we'll move to this room. And everything took so much longer than normal. And people would deliver food to the house, but they would deliver it right by the the front door. And so I would open the wooden door, the second door, and then the first glass door, I'd have to figure out a way to either crack it open slightly, wrap my arm around it, to move the food out of the way so that way I could actually open the door completely, not knock over the food. So that was a struggle almost every single time. Maybe it was something I never noticed before when I had two functioning legs, but I'm sure it would have looked hilarious if you were my neighbor trying to watch me grab something with one crutch, knock it over without actually toppling it over, move it out of the way, press the other crutch onto the door so that way the door would automatically stay open, reach all the way around without falling off of the other crutch, grab the bag, bring it back inside, and shut everything. All without the dogs escaping. So that too was terrifying. Oh, man. I never realized how much I had to pee all the time too. It never used to bother me when you could just get up and go when you felt like it, but when you had finally sat down and you had your leg propped up and then your bladder started to tell you, oh, actually, we want to go to the bathroom. You're like, I hate you. We just got here. Can you hold it? And the bladder would always say no. So you're constantly having to pee, having to work on my computers in intervals to raise and lower my leg. Yeah. So I tried to do a jankety kind of setup in my guest room here where I'm sitting now and have my leg propped up, but still be on calls, but still be able to use the laptop and the second screen and all this kind of stuff. And it would never last very long because either my leg would start to go numb or it would need to be elevated again or rotated around. And I'd switch between sitting at a desk and sitting in the recliner because at least in the recliner I could lean back and hold the leg up. But then it would get really hard to type because you'd have to sit back up and look, and it's just everything was awkward. So awkward. And because I had the dogs and I didn't want to have to get up back and forth constantly to let them in and out, I had to keep my back door wide open the whole time. So if anybody had tried to rob me or been dumb enough to try and rob me, the dogs would have stopped you. But the back door was wide open for 3 straight weeks while I was waiting on them to my parents to come back and pick them up. But yeah, I had to keep the door wide open in the middle of hay fever season just because I didn't have the energy to stop, drop, and roll over every 5 minutes to let them in and out. So that was silly. And so my house is probably half covered in mud and half covered in pollen, and I have done the best I can to clean it out, but I digress. But there was also a good deal of underestimated trauma that kind of came from this injury too. And we'll get into it when I read you the little speech, but it brought up reliving that high school injury. And I guess I didn't, after the first 3 to 4 days, I didn't quite process why I was so upset. I didn't understand. I just knew that I was upset and sad and depressed and angry about it. And we'll talk about it. But essentially this injury was the exact same injury, but worse this time. And it made me relive that moment in my life. And I guess I didn't realize how much that moment in my past had upset me, or how much I guess I hadn't dealt with those feelings from way back when. I definitely had more fears about gaining weight, as we've talked about, like fitness being a really big deal to me. I had a lot of shame and upset regarding losing my control over daily tasks. Brushing your teeth shouldn't be painful. Getting up and down to go to the bathroom shouldn't be an ordeal, but it was every single time. Not being able to stand long enough in order to cook your own dinner, like that got expensive, right? Because unless I ordered pre-made meals ahead of time to be delivered to the house, I would order out because I could not stand long enough to actually cook something. Even eggs on the frying pan would still take too long for me. It would start to hurt my leg trying to rely on standing in that one thing and trying to hold crutches. The way that my layout of my kitchen is, there's no countertop space next to the stove. So I would have to turn from the stove all the way around, hop to the countertop on the other side of the kitchen and put it down and put it on a plate and all this kind of stuff. And so coordinating how to cook and how to clean without falling off the crutches was very upsetting and annoying. And I underestimated my trauma with not being able to ask for help. I didn't want to tell people I was injured. I didn't want to ask for help unless I absolutely had to. I just was constantly feeling overwhelmed and ashamed at the beginning of the injury. And I also fractured the fibula right before my period, so it was a few days leading up to that. So if you're a woman or you've ever had a period, you know what it's like where whatever that phase, luteal, I don't know, don't ask me, I'm not a scientist. That phase of the first like 5-ish days leading up to your actual day, first day of your period, are the most hormonal, chaotic, angry, sad, judgmental days you can have. So almost anything that could trigger you to cry or trigger you to be upset or unload the floodgates of something that you didn't even realize was under there, but your hormones are changing so much to get ready to shed everything out of your body. And it makes you far more emotional. And so getting injured a few days before that happened was just a spiral, right? It was just the crux of a psychological issue making you feel worse, right? So you already feel fat and lazy and bloated because it's your period, but now you're especially fat, lazy, and bloated because you can't even walk. So you can't even burn calories. You can't mitigate the pain of that biological change because you can't go anywhere. You have to lay down. So there's nothing for you to do except to literally sit there in the suck. You can't avoid it. The only way I felt like I could deal with underestimating all of that trauma piling on top of itself was I didn't want to tell people that I got injured because I didn't want to tell the story over and over again about how I got hurt. And I needed to brush off the reality of how I really felt. I needed to brush off what was really going on in my head because I needed a way to laugh so that way I wouldn't cry about it anymore. And so one of the easiest ways to just laugh was to avoid the conversation altogether. But I wrote this speech. No, it's not really a speech. It's just an explanation of what's going on here. And this is the message that I want to make sure that I can get across today. Not just the funny stuff, not just the trauma dumping stuff, but I want to explain what my actual thought process was in this injury. And if it feels like I'm reading it to you, it's because I am. I've done this before where I've read through a message because I want to make sure that I get it correct. I want to make sure that what I say comes across the right way. And so I don't want this to feel impersonal by any means, but I want to make sure that I stay on point and stay succinct with what's going on. So I'm going to read through this and then we can kind of talk about it at the end. But this is the message that I want to give you. This is what I think you need to know. And if you're going through something like this, like me, if you got injured or you feel like you're living in a deja vu moment where you thought you were okay, but turns out you are reliving an experience that you thought you were over with. You thought you had resolved it. Sometimes that deja vu moment comes back to remind you that you haven't. And sometimes you respond in the exact same way. And as people like to say, the universe will feed you the same lesson until you finally learn the difference or you finally learn the lesson. It'll hand you the same problem until you actually learn to solve it or you learn to let go or you learn to whatever. So maybe this was the universe's way of trying to teach me that I'm not okay still or that I still have a lot to learn. But either way, I think the message will be helpful to you. And I hope that it conveys that you're not alone, no matter what your issue might be that you are reliving in this moment. It doesn't have to be an injury like mine, but If there's a moment where you're actually just not okay, you're not alone. All right, so let's get into it. So, to be clear, I thought I had sprained my ankle because the pain was similar and the swelling was similar, but it wasn't until I went to the outpatient thing that I realized it was actually fractured. But when I wrote this message, I was under the impression that it was sprained. But here we go. The last time I sprained my ankle, I was in high school. I don't fully remember how I did it, but I'm assuming I did it during soccer. In high school, we did not have our own soccer field. We had to borrow a field from West End Middle School. And so we we had to use their rundown field that was also shared with like their middle schoolers and elementary school kids and stuff. But I digress. We had to borrow West End Middle School's field at the time, and so it was I don't fully remember how I got injured, but it was definitely during soccer. I probably fell in a hole, twisted it, whatever. And so I was down for the count and I couldn't play for a decent portion of the practice in the beginning of the season. And during that time, I ended up gaining a lot of weight. For a high schooler, right? I ended up gaining a lot of weight and I struggled with self-confidence for a while. And really the only main memories I still have from that high school incident is when I was sitting on my parents' couch, a giant purple leather couch with my foot propped up on pillows, and I was, hobbling around on crutches for like 3 to 4 weeks, and then I started to wear a smaller brace. And there are photos of me in Spain with my cousin and my aunt wearing the smaller brace while we're walking around. And I have a badly sprained ankle. She had in the photo, she has mono and she had a full body rash before we went on this trip, and we had to deal with this really crazy host while we were there in Spain. But that is a very, very long, crazy story for another day. But that was back in 2007, maybe 2008. So fast forward now, it's April 2025. And I'm watching both Dirks and his sister Dolly while my parents are out of town in Europe for 3 weeks. And not even 48 hours goes by and I fracture my left fibula near the ankle in my backyard when I'm letting them out at night. I slipped in the mud while trying to get them to go to the bathroom, and I just lost it and slid into a tree. I crawled my way out of the mud, back up my porch steps and into the house, screaming in frustration the entire way. And I laid there on the bathroom floor, attempting to take off my dirty clothes and put on something else, and I just cried. I screamed and I cried, not necessarily out of pain from the ankle, but from being pissed off and scared about losing my confidence again. Losing my mobility, losing my independence, but more importantly, losing my momentum of finally feeling unstuck. The day before the injury, I posted a photo of me with my new haircut. I was so happy about it because I felt good about myself. I was taking care of my appearance. I wasn't exactly doing something shallow because lots of men and women like to get their hair done or they get cleaned up and it helps them feel refreshed. And I didn't change a lot about myself during that week, but leading up to that point, I had been more active. I had been doing morning workouts. And for those of you that don't know, I am not a morning person. Whatsoever. But I was doing morning workouts, I was eating better, and the hair was just kind of icing on the cake. And in less than 48 hours after getting my hair done, I slipped and cracked my fibula, and now I can't walk or stand for several months without help. Now, getting injured happens, right? And it's not uncommon for people to re-injure a previous wound because that specific body part is weaker than before the injury occurred. So for me, injuring the exact same left ankle or the exact ankle was not really unexpected. But the emotional reaction did make me wonder why this injury seemed to matter so much more to me beyond the superficial reasons, like being unable to do basic house chores or take care of the dogs the way that I want to because I can't walk. And the truth is, I think I felt like life had knocked me down just as I was starting to feel better about myself and the moves I was making in my life to help me move forward and improve. I've come to realize and accept that at your 30s, it's just a weird decade where you are rethinking everything about yourself and how you want to approach your life, your relationships, and your habits. I assume most of my listeners can probably attest. If you are a millennial coming of age now in your 30s, you've lived through multiple wars, multiple pandemics, multiple economic crises, inflation, wage stagnation that has not caught up to the cost of living. There's less available suitors or partners to build that American dream life with, if that's what you want. And don't forget the crushing student loan debt for careers that we were told, would help us pay our way through life. But now, how much do you want to bet that the diploma you earned doesn't actually describe your current job? Every step closer you think you're making still feels like a step back, and for a vast majority of us, catching a break may feel like it's completely out of reach. The last 3 years, for me, have felt like I'm holding on to sand. Every day a little bit more slips out, but I'm trying really hard to listen to my inner knowing, listen to my intuition, listen to what it's saying to me, what move to make next. So far, it hasn't felt wrong when I'm doing what it says, but as a classic overthinker, it's really hard for me to let go. I spent the last, essentially, 5 years of my life trying to derive meaning out of everything I'm doing, trying to align who I am and what I want to represent with what matters to me and where I want to go. And it's been hard not to think that the last 3 years in particular have been incredibly challenging for some reason. And 3 weeks ago, just when I, finally felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do and making moves to listen to my intuition, the universe wants to throw a wrench in that confidence and have me break my leg. How twisted and cruel does the alleged higher power need to be to make me learn a lesson? 3 weeks into an injury and I still can't help but think, is this just a coincidence of normal human pain and inconvenience, or is there a lesson here? And if there is a lesson, what the fuck is it supposed to be? A sick joke? You want to walk out of this life that you created? Here, let me help you. As someone who's been struggling with her own self-confidence for decades and realigning her identity with things that can now properly match her values, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I've done a lot of self-work and have attempted to begin this healing process. But fracturing my fibula just showed me I have a long way to go. Of course, at first, I was angry because I lost my ability to move and walk, which means I lost my ability to exercise the way that I want, which symbolized being temporarily immobile and thus physically and now metaphorically stuck again. The very state of mind that I have been fighting off for the last 4 to 5 years. Maybe I wasn't winning the battle at an emotional level of feeling stuck or the psychological level of feeling stuck, but damn, I was winning the battle of physically making me stuck. When you are physically stuck and you have to forcibly sit and think at the exact same space all day and all night, you have to be prepared for the mental spirals that will come with it. Because if you're not ready, it'll only make it worse and possibly affect your recovery time. And I can't afford that. I've worked way too hard on myself to succumb to these same insecurities that I've just always had. If I don't work out, then I'm going to gain weight like I did in high school. If I can't walk or move, I'm going to feel like that angry teenager, and I don't want to go back there. I am sure this sounds superficial and vain and stupid to some, but that's what's going through my head right now. Life is going to throw all sorts of things at you. Physical injury, loss, promotions, devastation, renewal, luck, betrayal, love, setbacks. It doesn't really matter what the event is, but you can't prepare for all of them or know exactly when one of them is coming. But when they do, you can guarantee one thing. No matter the event, it's going to bring up unresolved emotions, feelings, or memories. But it's up to you to decide how to react, how to grieve, how to respond. Do you attempt to bury these feelings and memories again, knowing that they're just going to find a way to dig themselves out? Do you admit the truth and acknowledge what's going on in your head and in your heart so that you can recover? Do you accept this new path where you have to walk hand in hand, not only with the grief, but now with your resilience? Luckily for me, this particular injury was physical, and it mimics a previous experience of mine. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel. The question is, do I actually have the mental fortitude to see this through so that I don't spiral like that 15-year-old girl did? Do I have the wherewithal to recognize that being emotional during a physical injury is natural, but the extent of that emotion comes from my own unresolved issues of body image, shame, self-hatred, and generalized feelings of frustration for where I'm at in my life right now? If I don't want this to get to me this time, then I have to take the reaction seriously and metaphorically start hugging that younger version of me and let her know that the injury sucks, but recovery is so much easier than you think, and that old habits die hard, which means fitness isn't going to go anywhere. Neither will the gym, neither will physical therapy. And being alone right now while you're injured, it sucks. It really does. But telling yourself that this is worse this time because you're single, because there's no one here to help you, isn't going to solve anything or make the recovery go by any faster. You need to lean on people if they offer help. Pride, it doesn't fix your problem either. Pride is probably why you still have these unresolved feelings to begin with. Concerns over what other people think of you for gaining weight after getting injured, it's only keeping the power of those high school memories alive. Being concerned that you're asking for too much or you'll overwhelm your friends who have their own lives and responsibilities to look after. Asking your friends for help isn't going to damage the quality of friendship, and if it does, then they weren't a good enough friend to begin with. But I'm here to say, mostly because I need to hear this too, don't give your power over to fear anymore. Fear might like to think that it does, but it doesn't actually have your best interest at heart every time. Now, you're just going to have to go through life a little bit wobbly. You're going to have to do things a little bit wobbly while you recover, and that's okay. Life didn't stop because you're injured, so neither should you. You just have to pivot your approach. And now I hope that whatever you might be struggling with, wanderers, be it physical, emotional, or mental today, I want this message to reach you and remind you that everything you have faced before this moment, you have overcome. There's no reason that you should doubt yourself and your ability to overcome what you are facing now. Maybe you just need a new approach. Maybe you need to accept a helping hand. Maybe you need to just actually let it wash over you and drown you. Now you can finally allow yourself to feel what you've always been burying deep inside. Sometimes just acknowledging whatever is going on with you helps take away the power that it has over you, and it gives you the power back instead. I think the universe offers us a lot of opportunities to grow and to change, but sometimes these opportunities are presented in a way that you might least expect them. But getting caught up in the context of how that opportunity is presented to you doesn't really matter. The question you have to ask yourself when you're faced with a physical, emotional, mental setback like this is, am I going to take the universe up on its offer? Am I going to get back up and make the change that I know I need to make, or learn the lesson that I know I need to learn in this moment? What is this trying to teach me? And if you're knocked down, I hope you get back up. If you're in mourning and you need a hug, I hope you reach out and grab grief's hand. And if resilience offers to walk beside you, I hope you say yes. So that was the speech, and the lesson that I wanted to give today was just that there are always going to be moments in your life where you think you're doing great, and then something comes and knocks you off your high horse or just kicks the wind right out of you. And sometimes those are good moments that are happening, sometimes they're bad moments that are happening, but the only thing I can tell you is that they're coming, right? You can't stop them from happening, but what you can control is your reaction to those moments. And it's how you decide to respond that's going to change your ability to recover, that's going to affect your relationships, affect your personal growth, affect your trajectory on whatever path it is that you're walking right now. And so I encourage you not to make it harder on yourself the way that I did by spiraling. I encourage you not to make the mistake of not keeping your mental health in check during your recovery process, because if you are not responding to and supporting your mental health at the same time as your personal growth, you can end up setting up roadblocks for yourself that you don't even realize are there. And it's not what you deserve, and life is already difficult enough. Don't make it worse. If you need help, ask for it. Sometimes if you're just feeling shit, you feel it, man. If you have to do it alone, do it alone. Go to a meditative place, go be in a private room, go be on your own. If you've got kids and you can't let them see, go into the basement, shut the door, cry in the bathtub, whatever it is you got to do. But holding on to it and trying to carry, what is it? Everybody's trying to push their rock up the same hill. You're not better for pushing your 2 rocks up the hill, or like a rock that's like 10 times the size as everybody else's rock. Like, ooh, cool. your rock is still going to fall down the other side of that hill and go back to the bottom of the hill again. Like, you're not doing anything that much more impressive compared to the rest of us. You're just carrying more for the sake of carrying more when you don't really need to. If you're struggling with these body image issues, kind of like me, and don't sit here and be like, but Amanda, you look amazing. Amanda, you're so pretty. Amanda, blah, blah, blah. I know that, right? Like, I do. I am a relatively fit 34-year-old woman. And I do take care of myself. I do buy good food. I do have the good habits built in. You are correct. But I also broke my leg and immediately spiraled and thought, well, I can't do anything now. I can't stand up. I can't move. I can't deadlift, can't squat, can't go to the gym, can't whatever. And that's so silly because I had bands in my house. I had dumbbells in my house. I could do upper body workouts. It took me the first 3 weeks to get over that, right? To build up the confidence that you can stand in the other room and not have to do this, you know? You can also not do it because you broke your leg, dummy. You broke your leg. You deserve the right to lay down and put your foot up to keep the swelling down and like not overstress it, you know, allow yourself to heal. There's nothing wrong with that. But the mental twist that I had to do to convince myself that I'm not going to wither away, or the reverse where I'll get so big that I won't be able to lose the weight, that's also stupid, right? You'll go to a physical therapist, you'll regain mobility in your ankle, and you'll get back. You're just going to have to start over. You're going to have to start over at lower weight. How many times have you started over before with lower weights and built back up before? Oh yeah, plenty. See, dummy, plenty of times. And it just, I don't know, man. If you have to go in your bathroom and pull an Issa Rae from Insecure and talk to yourself in the mirror and just go, yo, I don't know what's going on with you right now, but it is not cool. You were the queen or the king of the mountain last week, and now this week you've completely just given up your throne. What the heck? You know, hype yourself back up. You know, bring yourself back down to reality. Remind yourself that your anxious, depressed thoughts are simply that. They're just thoughts. They're not facts. They're not real. You know, your body is responding to a physical injury or to this reoccurring event that feels like deja vu, but the truth is you figured it out previously. You're going to figure it out again. Maybe you've slowed down, but you're not as stuck as you think you are. You're not. And if anything, this podcast has taught me so many things. But I think reflecting back on this particular event has helped me realize telling yourself that you're stuck is like setting up your own walking yourself into your own mental cage, locking it and throwing away the key. Just saying it over and over again, or assuming you will be over and over again, makes it real. And the truth is, you're only stuck if you choose not to move. You are only stuck if you choose not to change. You are only stuck if you choose not to try again. And that is not how I want to live. Did I struggle the first couple of weeks? Absolutely. As soon as I could get off those crutches, though, I did upper body workouts every other day. I went to go see friends. I had dinner with people. I made myself get out of the house. I moved. I found a way to move. I read more books. I watched TV. I figured out how to rig my laptop so that way I could work and do calls and look at the screen without having to, drop my leg weird. Like, eventually told myself enough is enough, and I found a way around it. And you can too. You can. I know you can. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't care about trying to figure out a way to work around it, because nothing is more terrifying than realizing that you're lost or you're stuck or you have no idea what you're doing or where to go next or what to do next. And I pride myself on being someone that has always had a plan, that's always known what to do, that's always been able to figure it out. And the moments in my life where I've had to realize that's not the case anymore, or that's not the case in this exact time period, it's terrifying. But kind of like what I said earlier, do not give over your power to fear anymore, because fear does not always have your best interests at heart. It doesn't. It really, really doesn't. And so I beg you, if you're going through anything like I am, if you're physically hurt, emotionally hurt, mentally hurt, if you're living a deja vu moment and it's making you feel scared, worried, or stuck again, I promise you, you're not. There's a way out of it, and you're going to figure it out because you figured it out before, and I believe in you. But that's all I have for this week. Just letting y'all know I'm going to do my best, but I am in the middle of a move next weekend. My sister's kids are graduating from high school, so we've got graduation weekend next weekend. My mom's coming in town to help me pack and get my house in order, selling a lot of stuff, getting movers coming in at the end of the month, and then I have to set up my house all over again in the new place near my parents. So I'll get into that, but if you don't see episodes until June, that is probably why. There's just a hiatus. This is also my second job. It's not really a job. I don't get paid for it, but this is my side hustle. I'm not doing this full time. If I had prepared better, I would have batch recorded more stuff, but I didn't. Oh well, and I was mentally not in a place where I could, because I didn't feel like I had anything good to say or anything to talk about, but it is what it is. Love you, mean it. Like, subscribe, leave a review, send this episode to any of your friends you think that might be going through something similar. If they've been injured, if they've been physically hurt, if they're having a deja vu moment and you notice that they might be spiraling, send this episode to them. Send them the show. Let them know that they're not alone and that there are other people out there that feel just like they do and who are trying to figure out what to do with their life and their purpose and their meaning out of whatever it is they're trying to give back to the world. If they're just trying to live the best possible life that they can while still feeling good about themselves and their confidence, send them the show. Send them an episode. If you had one that you really loved or really touched you or really resonated with you, send it to them. I love it. I appreciate you for sharing the show, for posting about it on your social media. It means the absolute world to me when you tag it. When you tag me and, talk about the show and share it with your friends, it's the best. And so I do my best to respond to everybody's messages, but if you ever miss one, I apologize. I'll do my best to get back to you. But find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. We are out there. We are streaming video on YouTube. Lots of good stuff coming this way. Lots of good stuff being invested into the show slowly but surely. So like, review, subscribe, leave me some 5 stars. I appreciate all of you so much. And remember, wanderers are always welcome.